let's continue with more of Shyvana's followers, this one being the Dragon Guard Lookout, who is, again, like, much more of a reasonable character design for a soldier person, like, has an actual midriff with possibly room for organs in there, which is lovely. Appreciate seeing that, especially when the female champions don't get the freaking benefit of the thing. So, many of the elements we've already talked about in terms of framing are still present here, except rather than being framed like explicitly in like a frame within the picture, we just have these battlements creating this sort of standing, what we call it, still, a standpoint, I guess, for it, or a stage for her to rise from, and then she contrasts as a character against just the fuzzy blue and red and pink and purple of the sky. She becomes this rising bastion of gold and red and bright saturated colors, rising into this indeterminate space, giving it something concrete to focus on, and rising above the heads of her compatriots, becoming the main character of the piece that way. The lighting also helps, although she's not like lit up that much more than the guy who's standing next to her knee pointing out at the thing like, there in the distance, is that? Looks like it. How can you be sure? Oh, there's no mistaking them. Cover your ears, this will be loud. Andon and Yesenia. So she's called Yesenia, essentially, doing the dragon horn roar thing. I guess she sees Shyvana fighting the dragon guy, or they're approaching right now, and it's their fight that's going to rip a new one across this battlement of the Demacian outskirts. Like her character design quite a lot. Like, there's a clear femininity to her. She has these earrings. She's got a little bit of mascara going on, but it's not, like, ostentatious. And the chest plate itself also, like, with this very forward-pointed triangular shape, creates, like, the visual signifier of a bust without being straight-up, you know, boob plate, which can often be a little bit, like, it's a little bit Conan the Barbarian in situations that kind of don't need it. And also, like, we have the scale mail skirt kind of thing that she's got. So we have these feminine details being incorporated into the design without overwhelming it, without making her not look like a soldier or a warrior. We have these feminine aspects that sort of, that create an identity for her that's really nice to look at. You want some crumpets with your tea? No. I have eaten enough today. I had a big dinner before starting this. Moving on to the Wrigley burblefish, who is one of the part of the what are they called? The shell shockers. We have Admiral Shelly. Wait, stand straight, newbie. Your mission is to infiltrate behind everyone's, plant as many bubbles as you can, and tell us everything you see. Everything. Do you understand? Which are these adorable little turtle children who are playing a soldier in the shallows of Bilgewater, I suppose. And this, I guess, is their little axolotl-looking friend who plants bubbles around places, the wiggly burblefish. And he is just cute as a button. Like, he is distressingly adorable. And he is bright green inside this little... I guess he's just poked his head inside of a jellyfish, which makes him stand out beautifully against, like, the dark blue of the sea and then the bright pink and purples of the jellyfish school that he's floating around inside of. This is a cute little adorable critter who seems to be having a hell of a lot of fun doing whatever it is that he's trying to do. He's a little adorable baby friend who I like very much. Just, again, the color use, like, just the bright orange with the edge lighting going around there, like that blue shading, like, indicating the highlights of the light coming down from, like, lots of gorgeous painted colors on these things, and they really have had a lot of fun. Like, look at this, like, bright magenta highlight across this otherwise kind of drab-looking bit of the jellyfish over there. It's like, beautiful. Absolutely gorgeous. Here we have a great character, though. It's a wise fry. It's a wise fry who is clearly the leader of this gang of violent crocodiles, whomst we last saw in the... Where the hell is he? He's some way back. He's the lounging lizard. This crocodile guy right here seems to be hired toughs for specifically the wise fry. We can see it's the same guy over here with the same waistcoat. Tiny little... this is something they just straight up copied that from Tom Kench, that these characters all have hats on their heads. Tiny little adorable hats that are way too tiny for them. And it's such a cute little detail on these giant, terrifying crocodile furries. Very cutesy, very adorable. I really like the crocodile henchmen. They so much personality on those idiots. Like, they look like they'd be kind of scary and dangerous, but also really stupid in a funny way. I like that. So the Wise Fry is sitting around in his little cauldron thing, doing business with some shady characters who we can see reflected in the gold of the little cauldron that he's occupying, which I think is such a clever little detail to show that he's not alone in this scene. There are people across from him who are also quite dangerous. And it's a good character. Like, you get the sense that this is like a small, screamy thing that like somehow has managed to take control of a lot of power, but for whom it'll be very hilarious to see when the power crumbles out from under him all of a sudden because of some stupid mistake he makes. And again, the lighting coming down from above, highlighting the character himself. He has got this bright golden bowl as well that stands out nicely against the mostly greens and teals and sort of ocean colors of the backdrop that he's sitting against. And he's lit up with golden light himself as well and has these bright red flippers that help set him apart from the rest of the scene. Is this one new in this expansion? I think it is? Chat, would you let me know? I can't remember. Yeah, it's new. Okay, cool. Thank you, chat. Thank you for being my memory for me when my own fails. So, interesting framing device here. The arc of the weapon that this Noxian whatever is swinging creates a little bit of the framing that kind of helps set them apart. Like, it literally creates a barrier between them and the, I think it's Winter's Claw that they're battling. And creates this nice, like, dynamic separation between them while also being a part of the action shot. Interestingly, the Basilisk itself is the main character of the card, right? Like, when we see the actual card itself, the Basilisk is the main character. But here, it's much more of a duo. Like, they're both the main character of the piece. They're both centered. They are both taking center stage. They're both dominating their opposition. They're both kind of raised, like, just in terms of sheer bulk, above everyone else in the scene. And especially with this giant red cloak fluttering in the wind, which seems like it would be easy to grab and drag them down off of the Basilisk. Maybe not the best idea to wear that thing on the back of a giant thing that you don't want to be pulled down from. No capes! But, like, they're just dominating the scene by sheer size and virtue of scale, essentially. And it looks very cool. And again, the lighting is doing a lot of work here. We have this winter scene, mostly in the background. Like, you can see the grays and the steely grays and the blues kind of trying to assert themselves, but they're all being overpowered by the bright orange of the sweep and the bright red cape and, like, the red accents around the scales of this big giant monster. Absolutely gorgeous. Again, the colors I'm mostly talking about. The art itself, I feel like it could be a little bit more dynamic. Like, it feels a little static, especially the way that the lizard is standing. Like, it has a very sort of squat profile that doesn't really have a lot of dynamism to it. It would be nice if it was swiping its claws out so that we get the sense that they're both fighting together, rather than just the lizard standing still and her swiping around with her weapon. This could be a little more dynamism in the image, I suppose, but just, like, the sheer action shot of this thing, like, whipping across, cutting both the torch and the shield in half, makes up for a lot of that. I think I love that swinging, curving arc of the weapon being described. Then we have this sparkly bastard, the Eclipse Dragon, who is borrowing a little bit of a trick from Aurelian Sol. Actually, let's look at his card art for a second. Borrowing a little bit of a trick from Aurelian Sol, especially his... Yeah, here we have Aurelian Sol's level 2. You can see he describes this infinity symbol with his body, which is a very clever visual little detail, but also, like, the way that they make him look large and imposing, like he has this mile-long body that never ends, kind of, is specifically by doing this, like, this curvy, like, whipping shape of a thing all around the cosmos behind him, like, taking up a lot of space, even though, like, the tail itself is kind of thin and not in itself that impressive. And that same visual trick is being used by the Eclipse Dragon a little bit here, because, like, the body itself is like, okay, he's on top of a mountain, he's probably pretty big, but then we have the tail, like this miles-long thing that seems to extend forever, flying out from behind his body. That kind of gives you more of a sense of, oh, no, this thing is, like, this thing is big. Like, this is a big boy. Which helps a lot. Like, without the tail there, the body itself would look kind of unimpressive, I think. So that works. And I like the use of, like, he's the Eclipse Dragon, right? So literally his head is blocking out the light that's coming from the crown thing that he's got behind his head. So he's causing an eclipse wherever the hell he goes. Which is like a clever way. Okay, Eclipse Dragon, he's literally a thing that's getting in the way of light. It's a clever character design. Clever way to do that. I quite enjoy that. And visually, in terms of the card art, it also has the added benefit that these little rays of light that are emanating all over the place have the effect of pulling our gaze to his face. Like, it has the effect of centering him, almost like a halo on a Christian saint of old. Pulls our attention to his face, pulls our attention to him, and makes him look more divine, which, of course, is part of what the dragons like to think of themselves as these divine creatures. That at the center of the universe, or whatever. Certainly that's how Aurelian thinks of himself. In terms of light and color, like, he has this bright purple body, especially, which contrasts nicely with the more muted, staid colors of the environment. We have the bright orange light falling from the sky, from, like, the setting sun, down upon Mount Targon itself, which again contrasts nicely with the darker shades of his upper body, and helps accentuate the idea that he's an eclipse getting in the way of everything. Just a very clever character design. And I like the sort of weirdness of his body. Like this weird torso with this sharp hook and this thing. Like, it looks kind of unnatural. Like, it looks like it anatomically doesn't quite make sense. It has this slightly uncanny feeling, which again helps add to the sense that this is a supernatural creature. Like, this is not, unlike a dragon like cadregrin, who looks a little bit more like he's like a biological creature that would exist in the world. The Targon dragons, and especially the Eclipse Dragon and the, where is he? Like, the Infinite Mind Splitter and characters like that, they look much more abstract. They look much more strange, like they come from some alternate dimension outside of the realm of like, sense and sensibility. Which I really like. I like that differentiation between them, that, like, the dragons that live in the world, in Demacia, in Noxus, they're a little bit more like actual lizards. And then the dragons that live on Targon are just like these space horrors from beyond the stars that are, like, briefly intersecting with the human world. Same thing goes for the Stalking Broodmother. Like, she looks straight out of Monster Hunter, basically. Like, she's a dragon, yeah, sure, but she's also like this big, fuzzy, wolf-looking creature thing. And that works like gangbusters. Like, I really do feel like I could have fought her in Monster Hunter World at some point. I'm reasonably sure I have, actually. But yeah, they're borrowing a little trick that we saw in the landmark cards, right? Like, we have human characters here, but no faces, no, like, identifiable characters. They just exist to be a scale, because human brains have an intimate, innate sense of how big a human body is. When we see a human figure in a picture, we get a sense that, oh, okay, now we know how big all of this shit is. So we see this tiny little itty-bitty human figure down there, and then this giant fuck-off motherfucking dragon right here being very pissed at them. You get the sense of how boned these poor people are, how big this tree is, how large and outsized this environment is, how screwed these Demacian soldiers are for having ventured into this dragon's territory. It's all about the scale. The humans are being used as props here, essentially. There are parts of the painting on this picture that I feel like are a little unfinished. Like, they look a little fuzzy and blurry in a way that the rest of the art in Legends of Runeterra kind of doesn't. I don't know if that's necessarily true, or if it's just because they really wanted her to look furry, specifically, but something about her just kind of feels a little unfinished to me. Like, maybe there could have been more foreshortening on the head, or I don't know, like, something vaguely feels missing from this picture compared to the quality of a lot of the other artwork, but that's a minor nitpick. So, color-wise, she's bright white, and most of the environment is really dark. That's a good way to make her stand out. It does beg the question, how the hell did the Demacians not see her before they got this close to her nest? But, like, okay, I guess she's good at hiding. oh, right, the visual storytelling. Like, you can just tell from the visual storytelling that this is her nest, these guys have disturbed it, and she's defending her babies. Like, the visual storytelling here is really strong. You can see the Demacians are like, oh, shit, oh, fuck, oh, no, oh, God, oh, no, oh, dear, oh, God, run away! Like, there's no sense that they're gonna try and fight. They're just fucking off as soon as they possibly can. Anyway, welcome to the Howling Abyss. A place with absolutely no human figures whatsoever. Maybe those are. Like, maybe. It's not... I can't really be sure. Maybe these two little spots are meant to be human figures. In which case, the Howling Abyss is fucking massive, y'all. But it is a landmark with, like, no obvious human figures for scale. And so the scale is being provided by other things. Like, we have this giant statue, which is clearly pretty big, right? But that giant statue is then itself dwarfed by the scale of the bridge. And, like, we have these little windows down here with light inside, which seems like it maybe, okay, humans could live in there or something. It could be people in there. But, oh, wow, if those windows are so tiny compared to all of this, like, you get this sense of scale from other signifiers here and there. And it's like, yeah, it looks big, it looks imposing. It's not quite as awe-inspiring as some of the other landmarks, I think. Like, it's just a big square bridge with mostly straight shapes and not a lot of color variation either. Which is what I really loved about a lot of the other scenes, is that they brought so much color into them. Here, mostly we just have, like, a little bit of orangey red light for some fire or something. And then dark gray and blue and white and blue and white and dark gray and blue and white. Which I feel like maybe something could have been done to bring a little bit more color variation to the space, but the Howling Abyss is meant to look stark. It's meant to look, like, unforgiving and uninviting in a lot of ways. So, Captain Arika, Demacian captain, holding in her hands a banner, which I'm not sure if it's Noxian or if it's I think it's supposed to be a Noxian battle flag. It's kind of hard to tell from here. Like a real hero shot for her, but she's so fucking skinny again. Like, it's a little hard to tell with the cape, but, like, her waist is, like, the width of her head or something here, like, just with the way that the legs are moving up. And it's, again, this thing of, like, why make her this thin? Like, this character is clearly not supposed to be sexy. Like, that's not part of who she is. Like, there's no part of this that's about looking hot. She's a soldier defending her homeland kind of thing. Anyway, I've complained about that enough already, I suppose. There's a little bit of anatomical weirdness, which comes from the fact that she's mostly silhouetted. Like, we can't really see, like, what's the anatomy of, like, the thighs and the legs? Like, how are they placed relative to each other? It's hard to tell because it's all so blotted out by the backlight that's illuminating her. It's a little bit like, where is her weight placed exactly? Like, how do things fit together? It's also not that important because the two main features of the picture in terms of the character is the red Noxus battle banner that she's holding, which is the main color contrast with the rest of the environment, and then the upper body herself, where she's looking out over the land of Demacia, sort of wistfully. And clearly, like, it's this thoughtful thinking pose of, like, remembering her homeland and thinking about all that she's fighting for. It's this quiet scene of introspection and reflection with only the wind and the billowing cloak and, like, all the motion and movement that provides, giving a hint to the repressed emotion that the character is actually going through. And I do really like the cloaks. Like, the cloak and the banner in this scene. Like, look how gorgeous that's rendered. Like, look, you can see the wind billowing through this cloth. Like, you can see how it's lifting and playing with it and throwing it around, and it's like, man, that's a pretty bit of paint job to get all those shapes and all that volume right and, like, really make it work the way that it's pulling away from the back of her cloak. And oh, really nice. Like, God, that's gorgeous. I like the scale as well, like the sense of scale of, like, how big the landscape and the countryside beyond all of this is. Like, the many, many, many layers of hills and hilltops and valleys that you see, sort of blotted out by the bright light of the sun. And some gorgeous, like, the composition itself is just gorgeous. Like, you have this sloping land side, or mountainside, and, like, these battlements that have clearly been recently attacked by Noxians. You can see more Noxian battle banners hanging there in the background. This place has clearly recently been attacked and then reclaimed, and then her rising out of it all in the center, highlighted by the sun. Like, just in so many ways, this is a gorgeous picture. Just a bit of weird anatomy going on there. Right, what's left then? I think we're down to the last card? No, one more. We have It That Stares, which is an undeniably badass name for one of these horrifying creatures. So, fun fact, these creatures were, at one point in lore development for League of Legends, they were supposed to be the Watchers. Like, they were supposed to be Watcher creatures, something along those lines. That's eventually been retconned around and moved a bit so that, no, they're not the Watchers, but they are scary ancient creatures that walk the lands of the Freljord, inexplicably doing laser eyes at things because of reasons, or whatever. And here, we've got a couple of interesting things going, where you've got human characters for scale, right? Like, we have the human characters in the foreground here, and then we have the little village that they live in, and then we see how this thing just towers unspeakably far up above all of it. Like this kaiju thing that's attacking this Freljordian village of what I believe are Avarosans, as far as I can tell from the color scheme. And then we have the frame, right? Like, we have the frame of the humans with the tree line where they're hiding from this thing, creating this open space, like open to the sky and the blood-red Aurora Borealis, creating a frame for this kaiju monster and its attack on the village to occupy. And I do like the use of a red aurora to really contrast against, like, the blue of the horns and the laser on the thing, and, like, really, it looks like blood. Like, it looks like scary and dangerous rather than the sort of serene and quiet and peaceful that a green or blue aurora would usually have. And here, unlike the landmarks, where, like, there's a distinct effort being made to hide faces, generally speaking, here, the faces are important. They're part of the storytelling. Crying baby, this, like, dejected mother, this guy, like, did we get everyone out? Like, he's worried about the people who are left down there, maybe. Like, we have this human drama playing out against the backdrop of this giant monstrosity attacking this innocent village for seemingly no apparent reason. And that's part of the storytelling of what this thing is and what it does. And you can see, like, this is an Avarosan Hearthguard. There was no time to gather our things or warn the others. We could only run for the forest and watch as it leveled our homes. That's the storytelling going on. And now, I believe, we have the very last card of the piece, Cadregrin the Infernal. When Demacia underwent a sudden spate of dragon attacks, Shyvana knew that Cadregrin the Infernal was to blame. Other dragons, inspired by his bold nature and powerful flame, drove the Demacians to fear. So this is the dragon that has been terrorizing the bulwarks and, like, attacking the Dragon Guard, and which leads up to Shyvana taking flight. And here, like, scrolling all the way back up to Shyvana herself, compare and contrast that version of Shyvana with this one. Like, this one is, like, more badass in that she's wreathed in flame and she's in the middle of her transformation, right? But this also looks kind of tiny and spindly and a little bit fragile to me. Compare and contrast that with how she's presented here, like how her body is framed. Here we get much more of a sense of her size and the scale of her and, like, the width and breadth of her wings. Like, she looks much bigger and much more interesting to look at here relative to what she looks like in her very own card art, which I think is a little bit of a pity. Then we have Cadregrin, on the other hand, who looks about the same size as Shyvana, which makes him kind of scary, but he also looks like a different breed of dragon. Shyvana looks much more Wyvern-like because she only has the arms and the legs. He has 4 legs and then the wings on top of that as well. So he looks more like a true dragon in that sense. But look at the other contrast between them as well. Like, Cadregrin has this wild, free flame burning all over his body, kind of breaking through his skin. He's this wild, monstrous, untamed creature, where Shyvana, like, with her armor plating and with her much more sensible body and, like, the more restrained flame coming out of the back of her headdress, looks much more civilized, right? Like, she looks, a problematic term, but she looks much more like someone who's, like, not just a wild, free nature spirit running rampant, but someone who has a culture behind her, who has, like, a consideration, an active, sentient mind, than this wild beast of an animal. And the color contrast between them bears that out as well, where Cadregrin is basically a piece of coal that's sprouted wings and flies. Like, he's this black, like, mass that's just with fire kind of cracking through the surface, smoldering like embers. Where Shyvana is a much brighter character here. Like, there's much more, she's much lighter in her color scheme, even to her skin and her claws. And she has these golden accents and this red that gives her a much lighter aspect, whereas he's very dark and scary. So lovely contrast going on between Shyvana and her foe that she's fighting here. And there's a bit of compositional trickery going on with Shyvana, who's at the top of the image, kind of diving down into it, down below cadregrin, right? So cadregrin's head is above hers, but her body is above his, and that creates this sort of yin-yang feeling. Like what they're circling each other in the sky, where it's not like one of them is really dominant over the other. It's not like one of them has a clear size advantage. It's not like one of them has a clear positional advantage. Cadregrin's head is above Shyvana's, but Shyvana's body is above cadregrin. So there's this balance between them right here. Like, this is the moments before they actually clash and fight for real. That we're seeing right here, which lets cadregrin still present a threat without making Shyvana seem weak or less powerful. And that works really well. As for the backdrop, there's not much to say. Like, mostly it's just a sort of dark, neutral-colored backdrop against which cadregrin's flames and Shyvana's redness can be nicely contrasted so that they're very clear in the image. It's just like a flyover of a Damacian countryside, essentially. Whew! There we go. That is all of the creature cards, at the very least. All of the unit cards of the new expansion. Now, let's check for the spells, though, because I feel like some of the spells are going to summon some stuff, and it might be worth making sure that I've got that. Down. I'm just going to look through here. Nope, not one of those. Nope. Nope. I believe I've already looked at the Poro cannon, actually. It's an invoke. Okay, I don't think there are any summons in the new cards. Is there? No, I don't think there is. This one's cool, though. Homecoming. Good point in the chat there. Trevor, come back! Trevor's house. This is Trevor Snoozebottom's house that's going looking for him. Which I think is such very cute. Like, it kind of looks like Lulu's hat a little bit, doesn't it? But then it's sprouted legs and it's coming. It's trying to come in and save him. That's very cute. But yeah, I do believe that's it. I believe that is all of the creature cards, at the very least, of the new expansion. So, anyone have any questions? Any card that they want me to take another look at or talk about or anything? Because I'll hang out for a few minutes, and then we'll call the stream to a close. So, so I can lie down for a bit. I think my back is going to kill me tomorrow. That last dragon card gives huge Balrog vibes, at least to me personally. I agree. I agree. Like, there's a lot of Balrog vibe to that kind of thing, like the dark and the fire. You should really show the new interactions. It gives so much more character. I can't really show the card interactions. That's skin spotlights make those videos, and I don't want to just play their videos on my stream. That's a little stealing. Thank you for your work. Well, thank you for being here, Freykros. Very kind of you. What's my opinion on the KDA cards? I don't mind that they added them, but I kind of wish that after the KDA event was over, that they would be turned into something lore appropriate, because, like, these are fine for, like, an event or a lab, but if they're actually in Legends of Runeterra, I would prefer something that actually fits into some of the regions or, like, anything that they've already been in. Because, like, they are attached to regions. Like, this one is an Ionia card. This one is the Targon. This one's a Piltover and Son. This one is Freljord. This one's Shadow Isles. Like, they are already attached to regions, so couldn't you just reskin them to something that makes sense for those regions? I don't know. Can we look at Trevor's card again? Yes, we can. With a little angry living flowers chasing him down as well. What's my favorite of the new champions? Oh, Tom Kench, definitely. What would you think about a League of Legends MMO? No, I don't want that. Like, I mean, I don't play MMOs, so I don't want that. No. Ugh, not interested. Not my kind of thing. There was another art channel here earlier asking what my opinion is about Rel. You'll get my opinion on Rel when I make my video about her. I'm sorry, that's gonna have to be the answer. What's my usual deck? I haven't built anything new with the new cards, but I've been playing a lot of my bad dragon deck. Which is just, like, complete Aurelian soul misery. Like, it's just all about delaying the game until I can get Aurelian Soul out and then murder people with all of the with all of the celestial cards, and it's very satisfying and evil. And if you play it against me, you're a hack and a cheat, and it's not fair. But if I play it against you, it's because I'm good. What are my updated PC specs? Oh, nothing that impressive. It's an i9-9000K, 16 gigabytes of RAM. I think it's like 3200 megahertz, and I have an GTX 980 Ti, which is getting a little long in the tooth. What's the deal with Seraphine going? Slowly. It's going, but slowly. Do you prefer Legends of Runeterra or League of Legends? Definitely Legends of Runeterra. The art is much more interesting in that game. League of Legends has gotten kind of stale, art-wise. League of Legends still has the better lore, though. Do you play ranked? Nope. I don't want to try hard. I want to play this game for fun. I play meme decks. I play dumb shit that doesn't work half the time. The Ruined King game is just Battle Chasers. Yes. Yes, it is. But Battle Chasers is fucking awesome, so I'm okay with that. An opinion on the new emotes? Good point. I haven't really checked out the new ones. Oh no, it's a new Braum. Oh no. Oh no. Fuck. We already had a Braum. You didn't need to add another one. Oh, I'm gonna get BM'd by this shit. On the other hand, oh, I need to get a hold of that. No, I've promised myself not to spend money. Ugh. Oh, that one's pretty cool. That's for when you decide to try hard. Like the game is going badly and you decide to try hard. Oh, that one's not very good. Oh, that's an awkward morph. That doesn't quite work. Meme deck. Maybe try unkillable kegs with that boat. Yeah, something like that would be fun. Thoughts on the spacey aesthetic of the League Dragons? I already talked about that during the stream. The Zoe one actually changes between 3 different emotes every time you use it. Oh no, that's even worse! Oh no! Any particular champion you're looking forward to? In Legends of Runeterra or League of Legends? You ever play a Teemo Karma deck? Oh yes, yes, I've played a couple of those. They're awful. I'm really bad, like I'm really terrible at decks that rely on lots of spells. I'm so fucking bad with reading the stack and like thinking 3 steps ahead. I like decks that just throw big creatures at people, like just real big creatures, just right at their face. That's why I love Poro decks. Like that's the thing I've played most of all. Is like really terrible Poro decks. Like this terrible thing. Which is just like... Poro Cannon and Daring... It's all about just making as many Daring Poros as humanly possible, and stacking Poro snacks, and just like and like Iceborne Legacy on the cannon poros, and it's fucking awful. Like once that starts rolling, you can't do shit. There's always more of them, and they cost nothing. You play red decks in Magicka? No, I don't play Magicka. I don't play Magic the Gathering either. But I probably would play green in Magic the Gathering, I feel like, because that's the big creatures, right? That's the ones that stack creatures, right? Why can't Riot take the art in the cards and make them splash arts for the champions? Because of localization, most likely. The thing is, you remember the whole controversy about Graves losing his cigar, right? Like, that happened because China specifically has some pretty strict rules about depictions of tobacco use, because that's part of the national censorship, is that they want to get people to stop smoking, because there's a huge national health crisis over there. So Graves had his cigar removed because it was just too much trouble maintaining assets between two different regions in different ways. Then people got upset about it, and Riot were like, okay, we'll put in the extra effort to do it. But that's why you can't just take the card art, is because there might be something in one of these cards. Like maybe this Teemo card, in some regions, this will be interpreted as, oh, these are psychedelic mushrooms, and that's drugs. And so it's like, all right. And so that has to be censored there or something, and like maybe the explosion in the background here looks too much like a mushroom cloud, and that makes it like, that runs afoul of some taboo about weapons of mass destruction. You can't know. Like, League is published in like 120 countries or something. Like, it's a global game, and there's so many little things that need to be censored and edited and added for different regions that Riot can't just take this splash art and put it in the main game. They have to vet that shit through like rounds and rounds and rounds of lawyers and sensitivity readers, and it's a whole thing. And that's usually why. That's also the reason why they can't just take the Wild Rift things and put them in League of Legends, like the splash arts and stuff, is because they're publishing those things in different regions, and there's a whole lot of work that goes into that shit. It seems like it should be really simple, right? Like, it seems like it should be the tiniest thing, but there's surprisingly a lot more work that goes into it behind the scenes, unfortunately. Which is why big companies like Riot can be so fucking slow and conservative about a lot of things, because from their perspective, it takes a lot more work than it does from ours. There's already censored versions of cards. Oh, yes. Yes, there's lots of censored versions of the card. There's a version of this card where he's not holding a woman, he's holding a trophy, because I guess this implied this was too sexy, too sexual of an interaction. Like, and that's the kind of thing you can't predict where something will run afoul of some taboo somewhere. Which is why they can't just take them and replace them. What's my champion wishlist for Legends of Runeterra? Good question. Because I'm trying to think of what would add an interesting mechanic to Legends of Runeterra. Like, each champion has to have, like, a special thing about them that makes them unique from the rest of them. And, and that's, like, hard to think of. I would like an Asir. Like, I would like an Asir character where the champion himself is really weak, but he can, like, spawn tokens, like, lots of tokens that can attack for him. That would be cool. Asir is presumably going to get added once they add Shurima. Like, they can't really do Shurima without Asir, I think. So, I'm curious about him. Did you see that new leaked card on Reddit? Nope, I don't care about leaks. Illaoi? Yeah. Illaoi would be cool, and, like, I guess she would spawn tentacles somehow, like, ephemeral tentacles that hit one time or something. I don't know. Or Test of Soul, drag an enemy card to your side of the table for one round. I don't know. I don't know how, like, the mechanics would be implemented. Galio could be a landmark before he levels up. Oh, that would be that would be very cool, Benepic. I could work with that. That would be pretty cool. Are you going to make videos about Valorant characters? Probably not. I don't get the sense that there's that many people who are super invested in the lore of Valorant. Like, I don't even get the sense that the team working on Valorant are that invested in the lore. Do you think some of the newest champions like Rel or Samira will get a card? No, I don't think so. Like, at least not immediately, no. I think with Legends of Runeterra, Riot are using the older champions first, because they provide more of, like, they're more familiar. And also, like, the newer champions, let's be real, they have, like, 14 million... Like, how would you fucking implement Aphelios in Legends of Runeterra, for example? Like, how would you even do that? They have a million mechanics that could turn into game mechanics. So right now they're like, I think they're using a lot of the older champions just because they're simpler and they're easier to turn into cards without overloading the game with new mechanics. Valorant characters are getting weirder and weirder gameplay-wise. I don't know if they'll be able to keep going for long. I kind of hope that they don't. Like, I kind of hope that they stop making new champions at some point. I kind of hope that they stop making new characters and just focus on the ones they've got, or maybe, like, start deleting some old characters instead of reworking them. Because, like, at some point, like, at 200 champions, that becomes, like, fucking infeasible. There's already way too many champions in the game for them to produce stories about. At some point, they have to stop. But, yeah, but, like, it's the same thing with Valorant. Like, it's the same problem. Is like, at some point, you can't... There's... Like, you run out of space to add new characters. Never thought I'd see you all calling Tom Kench a daddy, but I approve. I mean, some people are into that kind of body, you know? It's not that unusual. Anyway, that's probably the end of the stream, I think. I think things are dying down a little bit. Who is the best daddy material in League of Legends? Well, that depends on who you are, doesn't it? Like, there's some people for whom Draven is daddy. I don't see that at all, but, you know, some people are really into Darius, who's, like, just looks like a big meathead to me. I don't know, I don't see the attractive thing. Then there's people who are, like, really into Braum, which, like, okay, I kind of get that. It's like, and then there's Taric. People calling Taric a daddy seems weird to me. He's always seemed like more of a, what do they call, twunk? Something like that? So, like, everything can be daddy. Like, a lot of people calling Gangplank daddy, right? Like, everything can be fucking daddy to someone. So, I don't know. I don't know how you would answer that question. I want Victor to be my daddy and softly whisper to me about how he's going to augment my weak organic body. Yeah. See? Everyone's into something. We want to know who's your daddy. Oh, I'm not into that kind of thing. Daddies ain't for me, my friends. Johnny Yu, thanks for the stream and have a good day. Well, thank you for the super chat. That's very kind of you. Anyway, winding it down now. That was all of the goddamn cards in Legends of Runeterra, the last expansions for Call of the Mountain. And if you have enjoyed that, then I'd like to ask you to hit the like button down below, because algorithm reasons, basically. It's what makes the thing do the thing with YouTube, and it shows you that things do stuff, and I don't know how it works, it's just I know that that's what I'm supposed to do for business. I have a Patreon, I have a merchandise store, I have a tip jar. If you want to use any of those things to give me money, then I'd be very grateful for it, but, you know, it's Christmas, so maybe keep the money for yourself and buy something nice for your family, frankly. Because I'm okay. Like, I'll get through Christmas all right. Don't worry about me. Outside of that, thank you very much for watching. Please remember to wear your mask and wash your hands. And once the vaccine becomes available, please, for the love of God, take it and get your dad and mom to take it too, no matter what kinds of bad articles they've been reading on Facebook. Like, oh my God, I've seen some shit. And try to act in solidarity, if you can, with those who are working hard to make the world a better place right now.